Darian Obinna had lived most of his 30 years inside a world built with marble walls, glass windows and cold silence. His penthouse floated above Lagos like a private kingdom, polished floors, expensive art, a vast balcony that overlooked the restless ocean. Yet none of its luxury could fill the emptiness inside him. People called him the stone-hearted billionaire. Others said he was too proud to love, too obsessed with work to even think of marriage. But Darian knew the truth. He had never found a woman who stirred anything real in him. Not once. Growing up, he watched his mother cry for years after his father's betrayal. The memory carved something deep in him, something that made him wary, cautious, distant. By the time he became one of the youngest tech billionaires in Nigeria, he had already shut the door to romance. Money was easy. Women were many. But connection? Trust? Well, those were things that seemed to belong to other people. On the night everything changed, Darian sat alone in his office, drowning in unfinished work and an unusual heaviness he couldn't name. For days he had felt restless, like something in his life was missing. Or about to happen. When he finally stepped into his car to go home, he told his driver to take the fastest route through the city. But Lagos nightlife had its own mind. Traffic stretched endlessly, horns blared, lights flashed like restless fireflies. His driver took a turn into a quieter road, a small market district he would never have driven through on a normal day. The place was alive with laughter, the sizzling of food, and the scent of roasted corn drifting in the warm night air. That was when Darian saw her. A young woman standing beside a wooden stall lit by a single smoky lantern. She wore a simple brown gown, faded but clean. Her skin glowed with a warm chocolate tone, and sweat shimmered gently on her forehead as she fanned the grill with the patience of someone used to hard work. She didn't rush. She didn't complain. She didn't look beaten by life even though her stall looked worn and small compared to the world he came from. Her smile, soft, bright, and completely unforced, floated across the road and found him where he sat behind tinted glass. Something inside his chest shifted. Painfully, strangely, beautifully. He leaned forward, unable to look away. Amara. He didn't know her name yet, but something about her felt familiar, like a memory he never had but somehow missed. She laughed with children who ran around the stall, just a little girl's crooked ribbon, and offered customers corn with gentle care. It was the first time in years Darian felt warmth. Not from money. Not from achievement. But from a girl who had no idea who he was. Before he knew it, he stepped out of the car. His expensive shoes touched the dusty ground, but for once he didn't care. The city noise faded. His guards watched him with confusion, but he moved with a strange pull, like his heart was waking up after 30 silent years. He walked toward her stall, each step echoing a decision he didn't fully understand yet. For the first time in his life, Darian Obinna felt drawn to someone. Not because of beauty alone, he had seen countless beautiful women. Not because of need, he had never needed anyone. But because the moment he saw her, something inside him whispered, "This is the beginning." He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But in that instant, under the dim lantern light and the scent of roasted corn, the 30-year-old billionaire who had never loved realized his heart was ready for someone. And fate had chosen a poor girl on a quiet Lagos street to break his silence. For a moment, the world around Darian slowed, not physically but in a way he felt deep inside his chest. The lively Lagos street faded into a gentle blur as his eyes settled on the girl standing before the smoky lantern glow. Amara. He didn't know her name yet, but there was something about her that pulled at him stronger than logic, wealth, or reason. The wind carried the scent of roasted corn and charcoal, mixing with the warm night air. The sounds of children laughing and traders calling out prices floated around them, but Darian heard none of it. His attention was fixed on the girl whose smile had already begun to melt the stone walls around his heart. She worked with a natural grace, simple, unpolished, but captivating. He watched as her fingers carefully turned each roasting corn on the grill, ensuring none burned. The tenderness she used for even the smallest task struck him. It was the kind of gentleness money could never buy and luxury could never teach. It came from a life of struggle, patience, and quiet strength. Amara's movements reflected resilience. The way she wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her wrist. The way she straightened her simple gown and kept her lantern from dying out. The way she smiled at strangers as though kindness cost her nothing. Darian felt something unfamiliar blooming inside him. Something warm, unsettling, and terrifyingly human. For years, he had been surrounded by polished faces, fake smiles, and empty compliments. Women who wanted his name, his power, his wealth. People who looked at him and saw only status or advantage. But this girl, This girl didn't even look his way twice. Not because she was ignoring him, but because she didn't recognize him at all. And for the first time in his life, Darian felt invisible in the best possible way. He stepped closer, observing her quietly as though trying to memorize the details of the moment. The lantern beside her flickered, casting soft highlights across her chocolate-brown skin. Her hair, woven into a natural bun, accentuated her youthful face, fresh, innocent, untouched by the greed of the world he came from. She moved with the dignity of a queen and the humility of the poor. Darian wondered how someone could shine so brightly in a place so dim. As he watched her, he felt a tug at memories he had buried long ago, the years when his mother sold fruits at a roadside stall before he made his first millions. He remembered the look of exhaustion she wore, the way she hid her struggles behind a brave smile. Something about Amara felt like a soft echo of that memory, a reminder of where he came from and how far he had traveled. But Amara wasn't his mother, nor was she a dream from his childhood. She was something different, something new, something dangerous, because she awakened a part of him he thought died long ago. The lantern crackled beside her stall. Smoke curled softly upward, painting shadows across her face as she continued working, unaware that her life was moments away from changing. Darian didn't understand it yet, but something in his world had shifted the moment he saw her. It wasn't attraction alone. It wasn't pity. It wasn't curiosity. It was recognition. A soul-level recognition, the type people spend lifetimes searching for. He felt it in the weight of his heartbeat, in the strange sting behind his ribs, in the quiet awareness that he would remember this girl long after he left this street. Amara lifted her head slightly again as if sensing something. She looked at him with calm, curious eyes. There was no judgment in her gaze, no expectation, no interest in who he might be. She simply saw a man standing near her stall. And somehow that was exactly what Darian needed. In that instant, something shifted between them, a silent connection, gentle but undeniable. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, soft, pure, as if destiny itself had taken one small step forward. Darian felt the familiar solitude inside him crack, just slightly, like a wall finally letting in the first sliver of light after 30 long years. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know how this girl would fit into his world. He didn't know why he felt drawn to her so intensely. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. His life had changed, and there was no turning back. Darian wanted to speak, to say something meaningful, but the words stuck in his throat. His usual control, his meticulous calculation of every move felt irrelevant here. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about strategy or reputation. He was thinking about her. Amara's pulse raced. She tried to remind herself that this was absurd, a rich, mysterious man standing by her humble stall, but a part of her couldn't deny the pull she felt. It was intoxicating, a feeling she had never experienced before, as if the universe had conspired to place them here at this exact moment. Minutes passed, or maybe only seconds, but when Darian finally spoke, his voice was low, calm, and careful. "You shouldn't be out here so late," he said, not as a warning but as a concern. His gaze softened, and the intensity in his eyes communicated more than words ever could. Amara's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, anything, yet all she could manage was a quiet nod. Deep inside, she felt a warmth spreading through her, a strange sense of safety from a man she barely knew. For Darian, that nod was everything. It was acknowledgement. It was a bridge between two worlds that had never intersected before. And though he didn't fully understand it yet, he knew that whatever came next, nothing could return him to the lonely life he had known for 30 years. The night continued around them, the city bustling yet distant, lanterns flickering softly, smoke curling up from her roasting corn. But in that small circle of light, Darian and Amara stood still. The air seemed charged with possibility, fragile and potent. For the first time in his life, Darian allowed himself to admit it silently. He didn't just want to protect her. He wanted to be part of her world. To know her, understand her, and perhaps, if fate allowed, to love her. And Amara, though afraid and bewildered, felt the stirrings of a feeling she could not name, a feeling that promised life beyond struggle, life that might include the heart of the man who had inexplicably appeared in her life. Something had begun, and neither of them would ever be the same. The next morning, Lagos awakened with the usual hum of activity, but for Amara, the previous night's encounter lingered in every thought. The memory of Darian's gaze, so intense yet gentle, haunted her. She went about her daily chores, her hands busy with tasks, yet her mind kept drifting to the man who had appeared like a force she couldn't ignore. Darian, too, could not shake her image. Back in his sleek, glass-walled office, he found himself staring out over the city skyline, yet his attention kept drifting to her small, unassuming stall. The contrast of her life and his was stark, she grounded and real. He surrounded by luxury and power, but that very contrast pulled him deeper. By mid-morning, Darian made a decision that surprised even himself. He would not wait for fate to guide him passively. He needed to see her again, to speak to her, to understand her world on her terms. He summoned his driver, instructing him to take a detour through the streets where she worked. When he arrived at the small corner of the city where Amara's stall stood, she was already there, preparing for the day. The sun highlighted the warm tones of her chocolate-brown skin and the dust on her simple brown gown. She looked up briefly, meeting his eyes, and her heart skipped, not out of fear but anticipation. "Good morning," Darian said, keeping his voice soft and approachable. There was no hint of arrogance, only genuine curiosity. Amara hesitated. Her life had always been about survival, about navigating a world that rarely paid attention to girls like her. And yet, here was a man who looked at her differently. "Good morning, sir," she replied cautiously, unsure of what to say. Darian stepped closer, careful not to invade her space. "I wanted to see how you are. How your day begins," he said. His words were simple, but the sincerity in his voice carried weight she couldn't ignore. Amara's chest tightened. Her instincts urged her to step back, to maintain the distance she had always clung to. Yet a small part of her, perhaps the part that had felt the pull last night, remained. She let herself nod, acknowledging his presence without speaking further. For Darian, that nod was enough. He studied her quietly, noticing details he had missed before, the way her braids framed her face, the small lines of effort around her eyes, the strength in her posture despite the long hours of labor. She was beautiful in a way that no luxury could create, a beauty born of resilience and authenticity. The city moved around them, yet in that small corner time seemed to slow. Neither spoke much, but the silence was filled with a growing understanding. They had begun to bridge a gap that neither wealth nor hardship could define. For Amara, fear and excitement intertwined. She knew that life with a man like Darian would be complicated, that the worlds they came from were vastly different. And yet, she could not deny the stirrings of something new, a hope, a possibility, a connection that felt destined. For Darian, the realization was even sharper. He had spent 30 years controlling everything, avoiding vulnerability and guarding his heart. And yet, in a few short hours, a single encounter with Amara had undone him, revealing a longing he could not ignore. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light on the busy streets, one truth became clear. Their lives were about to change, whether they were ready or not. And both of them felt, deep inside, that the journey had only just begun. The afternoon sun shone brightly over Lagos, but Amara couldn't shake the image of Darian from her mind. Every glance she caught in passing reminded her of him. The intensity in his gaze, the way he seemed genuinely to see her, not the girl selling roasted corn on the street, but her. Darian, meanwhile, had spent the morning in a flurry of unusual activity. He had gone to the city's finest boutique, not for business, not for a deal, but for her. A simple gift, something that carried thought, not extravagance, something that spoke of her worth beyond the struggles she endured. He chose a delicate bracelet, made of small golden links that glinted in the sunlight, elegant yet modest, much like her. As he held it, he imagined her reaction, the quiet surprise, the shy smile, the way she would press her hand to her chest as if to steady her racing heart. By mid-afternoon, Darian returned to the street where her stall stood. Amara was arranging her roasted corn, her brown gown slightly dusty from the morning work. Her hands paused when she saw him approaching, her pulse quickening. "Amara," he greeted softly, holding a small velvet pouch in his hand. His voice carried the same warmth and calm that had drawn her in from the beginning. "Good afternoon, sir," she replied cautiously, her eyes wide. Her curiosity battled with her instinct to keep her distance. Darian extended the pouch gently toward her. I wanted you to have this. Not because I think you need it, but because I thought you might like it." Amara hesitated, then slowly took the pouch in her hands. Her fingers brushed against his as she opened it, revealing the delicate golden bracelet inside. She gasped softly, a mix of surprise and emotion crossing her chocolate-brown face. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice trembling. I can't. "You can," Darian interrupted gently. "It's yours. Please." His eyes held hers steadily, sincerity radiating in every line of his face. For a moment, the bustle of the city faded around them. There were no honking cars, no shouting vendors, only the quiet intimacy between two people beginning to trust each other. Then Darian spoke again, a subtle but daring invitation in his tone. If you're willing, I would like to invite you to my house tomorrow. Just to share some time, tea, conversation. No obligations, no expectations, just us. Amara's heart skipped. The thought of entering his world, of stepping inside a life so different from her own, was both thrilling and terrifying. She hesitated, weighing the risk, the difference, the possibility. Finally, she met his gaze, steady and earnest. I will come, she said softly. Darian's lips curved into the faintest smile, a mixture of relief and quiet joy. Good. I promise you'll feel welcome. As he turned to leave, Amara clutched the bracelet tightly, feeling the warmth of the gold, and the warmth of a connection that was growing stronger with each passing day. For Darian, the promise of seeing her again, of sharing even a small part of his life with her, filled a space he had thought forever empty. And for Amara, the anticipation of stepping into his world brought both fear and exhilaration, but mostly hope. The bridge between two worlds had been extended, and tomorrow they would take their first step across it. The morning arrived with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Amara had spent hours preparing herself, not in expensive clothes, she didn't own such things, but in a simple brown dress that felt neat and presentable, and a careful braid that kept her hair tidy. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the golden bracelet Darian had given her, a tangible reminder of the connection that had already begun to grow between them. Darian arrived punctually, dressed in his usual crisp white shirt and gray trousers. He greeted her with the same warmth and gentle smile that had so captivated her the first time they met. Are you ready? He asked, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable undertone of excitement. Amara nodded, swallowing her nerves. I think so, she replied, her chocolate brown eyes wide with both curiosity and caution. The drive to his mansion was a quiet one. Amara's eyes roamed out the window, taking in the city she had always known from the ground, now seen from the elevated world of a man like Darian. Skyscrapers loomed, cars glinted in the sun, and the streets below bustled with life, but her attention was drawn to the man beside her, quiet and confident, yet strangely approachable. When they arrived, Amara's breath caught. Darian's home was a mansion of glass, steel, and polished marble, a stark contrast to the life she knew. The gates opened, revealing lush gardens, sculpted fountains, and pristine walkways. She felt a pang of unease, unsure if she truly belonged here. Darian noticed her hesitation. It's all right, he said gently, sensing her discomfort. You're my guest. Just be yourself. Amara nodded, her chest tightening as they stepped inside. The interior was immaculate. High ceilings, modern art on the walls, sunlight pouring through massive windows. Yet despite the luxury, it didn't feel intimidating in his presence. It felt welcoming. He led her to a cozy sitting area with soft couches, warm lighting, and a small table set for tea. I thought we could sit and talk, he said. Just. As Amara sank into the chair, her fingers brushing the edge of the bracelet on her wrist, she realized how different this world was, yet how safe it felt with him. Darian poured tea, handing her a delicate cup. The steam rose, carrying a subtle aroma that mingled with the warmth of the room. You don't need to be afraid, he said softly, sitting across from her. I don't expect you to understand this world, nor do I want you to change who you are. I want to know you, Amara, everything that makes you who you are. Her heart swelled at the sincerity in his eyes. She realized with a mix of awe and fear that she had never been seen like this before, not in her struggles, not in her triumphs, not in her ordinary life. I am not used to this, she admitted softly, voice tinged with vulnerability. Darian smiled, gentle and understanding. Then I'll take it slow. Step by step. No rush. Just. For the first time in her life, Amara felt that someone wanted to bridge the gap between their worlds. Not for show, not for convenience, but for connection. And in that moment, she realized that this man, the billionaire who had lived 30 years in solitude, was slowly letting her into his heart. The afternoon passed with quiet conversation, laughter, and the kind of gentle understanding that cannot be rushed. By the time the sun dipped lower in the sky, Amara felt a warmth in her chest, a spark of hope that perhaps two people from entirely different worlds could find a place for each other. As she prepared to leave, Darian walked her to the car. Tomorrow, he said, smiling, we continue. Amara nodded, clutching the bracelet on her wrist, feeling the weight not just of the gift but of the promise it symbolized. She had stepped into his world and she would never be the same again. The following morning, Amara woke with the golden bracelet on her wrist, its weight a comforting reminder of the day before. Her thoughts were a whirlwind, excitement, nervousness, and a faint fear of stepping further into a world so different from her own. Meanwhile, Darian moved through his sleek penthouse office, reviewing schedules and business reports, but his mind was anything but focused. Every moment was punctuated by thoughts of Amara, the gentle tilt of her head when she smiled, the soft way she spoke, the quiet strength that radiated from her even in simplicity. He had lived 30 years in control, but now he felt a stirring of something entirely new: vulnerability, hope, and desire. Later that afternoon he called her. "Amara, I hope I'm not disturbing your day," he said warmly. "I was wondering if you'd like to join me for lunch today. Just a simple meal. Nothing formal." Amara's heart fluttered. Lunch in his world, inside his home, inside his life, was a step further than she had imagined. Yet she felt an inexplicable trust in him, the same trust that had grown during tea. "I'd like that," she replied softly. By mid-afternoon she arrived at Darian's mansion again, her brown dress neat and her hair braided simply. Her chocolate-brown skin glowed under the sun, her eyes a mixture of curiosity and cautious anticipation. Darian greeted her at the gate with the same calm warmth, his white shirt crisp, sleeves casually rolled up, gray trousers perfectly tailored. Inside, the mansion felt more like home this time, less intimidating, more welcoming. He led her to the dining area, where a modest but elegant lunch was laid out. "I wanted something simple today," he explained. "So you could be comfortable." Amara noticed the thoughtfulness in every detail, the way her favorite fruits were included, the tea she preferred. It was small gestures like this that made her feel seen, valued, and safe. They ate together, talking about everything and nothing, her childhood memories, his childhood struggles, their hopes and their fears. Each shared word built a bridge across the gap between their worlds, creating a connection that neither wealth nor poverty could sever. Yet as the conversation deepened, Amara couldn't help but notice the stark contrast of their lives. She wondered, quietly and painfully, if she truly belonged here, if she could ever fit into a world of polished floors and shimmering glass. Darian noticed her fleeting hesitation and reached across the table, gently touching her hand. "You don't need to belong here, Amara. You belong wherever you feel safe, seen, and valued. And I see you. That's all that matters." Her heart swelled at his words. For the first time, she realized that the boundaries between their worlds could be crossed. Not erased, not ignored, but navigated with care, respect, and trust. The lunch ended too soon, and as she prepared to leave, Darian walked her to the door. "Tomorrow," he said with a soft smile, "I'd like us to take another step. There's something I want to show you." Amara's pulse quickened. She didn't know what the next step would be, but for the first time in her life she felt that stepping into someone else's world could be less frightening when shared with the right person. As she left the mansion, bracelet glinting in the afternoon sun, both of them felt it, an unspoken promise that their connection was growing stronger, and that neither time nor circumstance could hold them back. The next morning, Darian found himself pacing near the tall glass windows of his penthouse office, something he never did. For a man known for precision, discipline, and emotional control, this sudden restlessness was unfamiliar and undeniable. He had promised Amara he would show her something today, yet he spent half the night thinking about what that should be. He didn't want to overwhelm her. He didn't want to scare her with his wealth. He didn't want her to feel owned, bought, or controlled. He simply wanted her to feel cherished. So he chose something simple, something meaningful, something that would allow her to step into his world gently, without losing who she was. Meanwhile, Amara walked to the market slowly, her steps light, her bracelet shining in the sunlight. She kept touching it unconsciously, as if reminding herself the moment from yesterday was real. Her heart fluttered every time she remembered Darian's smile, his gentle voice, the warmth in his hands, the way he reassured her that she didn't have to belong to his world to be seen. When she reached her stall, she tried to focus on arranging tomatoes and peppers, but everything felt different. People walked past her, but in her mind all she heard was Darian's soft promise. "Tomorrow there's something I want to show you." By noon, her heart was racing every time she glanced at her phone. Then it buzzed. "Darian, I'm outside. No pressure. Only if you're free." Her stomach fluttered with nervous excitement. She smoothed her gown, breathed deeply, and stepped outside the stall gate. There he was. Darian Obinna, billionaire CEO, standing beside a sleek black SUV, but dressed simply again as if trying to match her comfort. White shirt, rolled sleeves, calm eyes. The same man who made the world bend around him. Now waiting for her with quiet patience. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. "I think so," she replied, though her voice trembled. He opened the door for her carefully, as if she were something fragile and precious. The drive was silent at first but not uncomfortable, more like the silence of two hearts learning each other's rhythm. When she finally asked where they were going, he only smiled gently. "You'll see." Minutes later, the SUV turned through a side road and stopped in front of an unexpected sight. A simple, cozy-looking building with large windows and a small garden in front. "This," Darian said as he stepped out, "is the place where I grew up." Amara's eyes widened. He walked toward the old building and she followed quietly. The walls were aged. The roof repaired many times. The doorway carved with memories of hardship and survival. Children played nearby, barefoot, laughing, unbothered by life's weight. "I haven't been here in years," he admitted softly. "Not because I'm ashamed, but because sometimes the past feels too heavy." Amara's heart softened. "But I wanted you to see this," he continued, "because it's a part of me. And yesterday when I saw you in your world, I realized that maybe it's time I returned to mine." She watched him as he exhaled deeply, the vulnerability in his expression touching her more than any expensive gift ever could. "I didn't bring you here to impress you, Amara," he said. "I brought you here because I trust you." The word struck her chest like warm lightning. No one had ever said that to her before. Not with such sincerity. Not with such raw emotion. Not with such open honesty. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for letting me see this part of you." For a moment they stood together, not billionaire and poor girl, not two people from opposite worlds, but two souls sharing a quiet, healing truth. Darian turned to her again, his voice gentle but firm. "You remind me of the strength I came from, and I don't want to hide that from you." Amara felt tears gather in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling that she was being seen not for what she had, but for who she was. A breeze passed through, warm and soft, brushing her braid and lifting the edge of her gown. Darian watched her with quiet admiration. She was simple, humble, gentle. Yet she held a power he hadn't felt in 30 years. The power to make him human again. He smiled, a smile that softened everything in him. "Now," he said, "let me show you the rest of the world I want you to know." And without knowing it, Amara realized he wasn't just opening his past to her. He was opening his heart. Weeks passed, and the bond between Darian and Amara deepened in ways neither expected. Their meetings became a rhythm, soft, gentle, almost sacred. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they merely sat in silence. Sometimes they walked the market streets together, with Darian wearing a simple t-shirt just to blend into her world. And sometimes he took her to places that showed her pieces of himself he had never revealed to anyone. But with intimacy came challenges. People began to whisper. Some wondered why a billionaire spent so much time in a poor neighborhood. Others accused Amara of being lucky, opportunistic, or aiming too high. Yet through every whisper, Darian stood by her, with quiet dignity and unwavering resolve. One evening, after a long day visiting the foundation center he built in the neighborhood, Darian walked Amara home. The sun dipped low, painting the sky gold and pink. Amara held her small bag to her chest, her steps slow, thoughtful. She stopped near her stall, breathing in deeply. "Darian," she said softly, "I don't know if I belong in your world." He turned to her gently. "And I don't know if I deserve the peace I feel in yours." She looked up at him, eyes shining with emotion. "Your world is big. Full of money, pressure, expectations. Mine is small, simple, quiet." He stepped closer. "Amara, your world is honest, kind, real. It brought me back to life." Her voice trembled. "I'm just afraid of losing myself, of not fitting in, of disappointing you." Darian lifted her chin gently with a single finger, his touch soft and reverent. "You could never disappoint me. You are exactly who you're meant to be. And that is who I care for." The words wrapped around her heart like warm light. Then he took her hand, slowly, respectfully, and placed something small and elegant in her palm. A tiny velvet box. "Open it," he whispered. Her breath caught as she lifted the lid. Inside was a delicate necklace, silver and gold intertwined with a small heart in the center. Not flashy. Not expensive looking. Just meaningful and simple. Like her. "This isn't just a gift," Darian said softly. "It's a promise that I won't rush you. That I won't force you. That it'll grow with you, not above you. That every step you take, I take with you." A tear slipped down Amara's cheek. "And," he continued with a trembling breath, that no matter how different our worlds are, I choose you." Amara's heart broke open with love. Soft, deep, overwhelming love. She threw her arms around him, shy but sure, and Darian held her as though she was the only thing keeping him alive. In that embrace, everything made sense. Their past, their fears, their differences, their longings, their fragile hopes. It was never about matching worlds. It was about meeting hearts. When they finally pulled apart, Amara whispered, "And I choose you too." With those words, something settled inside them, gentle, powerful, unshakable. Weeks later, Darian introduced her to his world publicly. Not as a secret, not with shame, but with pride. And though it wasn't easy, though many questioned their differences, their love grew stronger, rooted in honesty, respect, and the simple beauty that first brought them together. Amara didn't change her heart. Darian didn't hide his vulnerability. Instead, they blended their worlds, piece by piece, until something new was born. A love that defied class. A love that healed wounds. A love that reminded them both of childhood, innocence, and destiny. A love that was meant to be. And as they walked into the future, hand in hand, two worlds finally united, Darian whispered the words that had lived quietly in his chest since the moment he first saw her. "You are the home my heart has been searching for." Amara smiled, her fingers intertwined with his. "And you," she whispered, "are the life I never dreamed I could have." And just like that, the billionaire who had been single for 30 years, and the poor girl who lived in a small world, chose each other forever. Love one. If you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe for more of the story. See you again in the next story. Thank you for watching.